Stop everything because what just unfolded has thrown the entire love and hip-hop Atlanta world into chaos. Rashida, the queen of composure, just lost it in a way nobody could have predicted. Cameras captured every second. Fans hit replay nonstop. Social media erupted with hashtags blazing. Why? Because Yandi, yes, Yandi herself, went live and unleashed a bombshell no one was ready for. She didn't simply drop shade. She pointed the finger directly at Rasheeda, accusing her of fueling the twisted scandal between Kirk and Jasmine. The words cut deep. It wasn't gossip. It was a calculated strike aimed at Rasheeda's pride, her marriage, and her entire identity on the show. Within moments, Rashida shifted from calm to explosive. What followed wasn't just tension, it was betrayal exploding on screen. Yandi claimed that Rashida's silence, her supposed cover-ups, and her determination to protect her brand had allowed Kirk and Jasmine's drama to resurface again and again. If she had handled it the first time, Yandi hinted, we wouldn't still be here talking about Kirk and Jasmine today. Those words hit like a dagger. It was no longer about rumors. It was about calling Rashida's character into question before the entire fan base. The impact was instant. Fans scrolling mid-feed froze. They replayed Yandi's live over and over. Within minutes, hashtags with Rashida's name were trending. The narrative spread like wildfire, dividing the audience. Some saw Yandi as fearless truth-teller. Others labeled her calculated and cruel. But no one doubted this moment was historic. It had changed the dynamic forever. Behind the shock, there was something more sinister. Yandi didn't just acknowledge rumors. She weaponized them. She pushed the idea that Rashida herself was the reason Kirk and Jasmine kept finding their way back into the spotlight. The boldness was staggering. The live wasn't harmless chatter. It was a full-on public indictment. And for Rashida, this wasn't just another messy headline. It was a wound ripped open for the world to watch. The moment Rashida caught wind of Yandi's live, the calm image she usually carried began to crack. According to insiders, she was pacing her dressing room, muttering that Yandi had crossed a line you don't come back from. Her footsteps echoed with fury. This wasn't irritation. It was the sound of a storm building. She demanded answers from producers, insisting they explain why her name was being thrown into something she didn't create. Every second, she grew more restless, her phone buzzing with texts, notifications, and screenshots of Yandi's accusations flooding social media. Each message was salt in an already raw wound. Cast members backstage described Rashida's face as stone. Her jaw clenched. Her voice low but trembling. She wasn't just angry. She felt betrayed. Not just by Yandi, but by the silence of those who let it spread unchecked. A woman who had spent years protecting her empire now stood on the edge of eruption. When word spread that cameras were rolling on the next scene, Rashida made her decision. She wasn't going to stay hidden behind whispers. She was ready to face Yandi head-on. And everyone nearby knew, the second she walked onto that set, history was about to be made. To understand the weight behind Rashida's fury, you have to revisit the scars of her past. For years, her marriage to Kirk has been dragged through the mud of infidelity, secrecy, and public embarrassment. Their union was once admired as a love and hip-hop Atlanta power couple. But Jasmine's name destroyed that image, carving a wound that never truly closed. Jasmine wasn't just another rumor. She was the woman tied to Kirk's most humiliating betrayal. When Kirk's alleged child with her came into the storyline, Rashida's personal heartbreak became entertainment for millions. Fans debated. Blogs dissected. And Rashida had to keep smiling, even while the world replayed her pain like it was a highlight reel. Every reunion, every confrontation, Jasmine's shadow lingered. For Rashida, the name itself became a trigger. A reminder that her loyalty was mocked. A reminder that her attempts to shield her family only made her appear complicit in lies. It wasn't just scandal. It was survival against endless judgment. So when Yandi dragged Jasmine's name back into the conversation, it wasn't harmless commentary. It was reopening an old wound before a live audience. The insinuation that Rashida enabled the chaos cut her deeper than any insult. Because for Rashida, every mention of Jasmine threatens the fragile peace she has fought desperately to rebuild. The second Rashida's heels struck the set floor, the air shifted. Conversations dropped. Laughter faded. Every eye locked onto her because her energy was different this time. She wasn't walking in as the calm, collected businesswoman. She was walking in as a wife, a woman scorned, and someone ready to unleash fury. The tension was unbearable. She moved with a pace that was both steady and threatening, like a storm creeping closer before it finally breaks. Crew members whispered nervously, and castmates stepped aside, unsure of what was about to ignite. Rashida's face told the entire story. Jaw tight, eyes blazing. The weight of betrayal clinging to every step. People knew this wasn't going to stay civil. The cameras were rolling, but Rashida wasn't performing. She was living raw emotion. Each stride seemed louder than the last, echoing like a warning bell. She wasn't here to debate. She wasn't here to plead. She was here to confront Yandi for daring to weaponize her past and drag her name into the dirt. No script could have written this better. When Rashida reached the heart of the set, silence collapsed into electricity. You could feel the room bracing for impact. Voices hushed. Movements froze. And then, her presence filled every corner, demanding answers without saying a single word. Everyone sensed the spark before the explosion, and here was the truth. Rashida had been pushed too far. Yandi's live wasn't just gossip. It was gasoline. And Rashida? She had arrived as the flame. The confrontation wasn't waiting to happen. It had already begun the moment she stepped foot onto that stage. And nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to keep it contained. Just when the confrontation was on the verge of erupting, producers were blindsided by something they didn't expect. An anonymous file hit their inbox. No sender name, no warning, just a single clip, labeled with nothing but Kirk's initials. The room froze as the crew scrambled to load it onto the monitors. What they saw sent shock waves. The footage was raw, grainy, but unmistakable. Kirk and Jasmine together in what looked like a late-night setting. His arm draped casually, her laughter undeniable. It wasn't staged. It wasn't rehearsed. It was evidence that reopened every buried suspicion fans thought had died down years ago. The silence on set was suffocating. When the monitor flickered, the reactions were instant. Gasps, murmurs, people stepping closer to be sure their eyes weren't deceiving them. Rashida's name wasn't mentioned in the clip, but its message was loud and merciless. It wasn't just her past resurfacing, it was her nightmare being broadcast in real time. And here was the cruel twist. No one knew who leaked it. Was it an enemy? A castmate? Or someone within production pulling strings to escalate the drama? The mystery only heightened the chaos. But one fact was certain. This anonymous footage didn't just stir the pot. It poured gasoline on a fire already burning out of control. The moment that anonymous clip lit up the monitor, the set descended into chaos. Rashida's composure shattered. She slammed a chair aside, the crash echoing like a gunshot. Drinks toppled, papers scattered. Her voice cut through the noise, trembling with rage as she demanded to know who dared leak footage designed to break her all over again. Yandi didn't back down. She leaned forward, her tone sharp, her words dripping with provocation. Instead of calming the storm, she poured fuel on it. She reminded everyone watching that Rashida's silence was the very reason this scandal kept resurfacing. Her message was brutal. Stop blaming the world and take responsibility. Those words hit like a slap across the room. Cast members shouted over each other. Crew tried to intervene, but the scene was already past saving. Every second the argument escalated. Rashida's anger grew louder, while Yandi stood her ground, unflinching. She wasn't retreating, she was doubling down. And that defiance turned the clash into an inferno. What began as whispered accusations had exploded into a full-blown meltdown. Chairs overturned, drinks spilled, voices collided in chaos. The set itself became a battlefield. And in that moment, one truth was undeniable. This wasn't just another argument for the cameras. This was raw war, live and unstoppable. And just when it felt like the chaos couldn't escalate further, the doors opened. Jasmine walked in. The air thickened instantly, like the entire set had been robbed of oxygen. Rashida froze. Yandi smirked. Cast members exchanged stunned glances, because Jasmine's mere presence was gasoline on an already raging fire. This was the moment no one saw coming. Jasmine didn't enter empty-handed. She clutched a large envelope, her expression cold, calculated, and unshaken by the shouting still vibrating through the room. Without hesitation, she placed it on the table. The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone knew what it meant: receipts. Hard evidence. The kind of proof that turns whispers into undeniable fact. When the envelope was opened, the tension spiked to an unbearable level. Photographs slid out, one after another, revealing Kirk and Jasmine together in places far too intimate to dismiss as coincidence. Smiles. Late nights. Familiar closeness. Each image was a blade slicing into Rashida's already raw wounds. The visual proof made the anonymous clip feel tame by comparison. Rashida's hands trembled as the photos spread across the table. Yandi's eyes locked on her, unblinking, as if daring her to deny what the entire room now witnessed. Jasmine stayed silent, letting the images speak louder than her words ever could. And in that instant, the battle shifted. It was no longer about rumors. It wasn't even about accusations. With those photos exposed under the bright lights of the set, Rashida's nightmare had been made tangible. And there was no erasing what everyone had just seen. The photos were still spread across the table when Kirk finally spoke. His voice cut through the chaos, defensive yet desperate. He claimed every meeting with Jasmine had been strictly business. A so-called deal, nothing more, nothing less. He insisted the images had been twisted, that people were eager to paint him as unfaithful once again. His words fell heavy but not convincing. Rashida's face said everything. She wasn't buying it. Neither were most of the cast. The photos told a story of closeness, not contracts. But Kirk didn't stop there. He doubled down, swearing that his integrity was being dragged through the mud, that this was yet another ploy to tarnish his name on camera. His attempt at control only deepened the suspicion. Then Jasmine struck back. Calmly, deliberately, she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She waved it like a weapon, scrolling through a string of text messages she claimed came directly from Kirk. Late-night confessions, flirtation masked as business talk. Words that painted a picture completely opposite of his defense. Gasps erupted as she read snippets aloud. Lines about missing her laugh. Promises of just one more night. No negotiation could explain away those words. The crowd shifted, the balance of truth tilting heavily against Kirk's narrative. In that moment, his defense crumbled. Jasmine didn't need to shout. The text spoke louder than anything Kirk could argue. The so-called business deal had been exposed as something much darker, and the fallout was immediate. The room wasn't divided anymore. It was united in disbelief. The shouting reached a fever pitch, and that's when security rushed in. Their presence was immediate, a wall of bodies moving to separate Rasheeda, Yandi, and Jasmine before the chaos turned physical. Chairs were pushed back, voices still clashing, but the scene had spiraled so far that even the crew seemed powerless to control it. The tension was unbearable. In the middle of the frenzy, Yandi leaned close to a castmate and whispered something that shifted the energy. Cameras caught it, microphones picked it up. Her words hinted that none of this was coincidence, that the footage, the photos, even Jasmine's dramatic arrival might have been orchestrated. A setup, a plot designed to break Rashida in front of millions. The suggestion spread like wildfire. Accusations exploded instantly. Cast members demanded to know who was pulling the strings. Was it Yandi herself? Was Jasmine complicit? Or was someone inside production manipulating everything for the ultimate scandal? No one gave answers. Only silence, side glances, and denials that felt rehearsed. The uncertainty made the moment even more dangerous. As Rashida stood trembling with rage, as Jasmine clutched her phone, and as Yandi stared defiantly back, the screen did the unthinkable. It cut to black. No resolution. No answers. Just questions left burning in every viewer's mind. Who leaked the footage? Who planned the ambush? And most of all, who can Rashida trust now? The moment the episode cut to black, the internet detonated. Social feeds were instantly flooded with clips, reactions, and memes that spread faster than wildfire. Fans dissected every frame, debating whether the leak was a masterful setup or a genuine collapse caught on camera. It wasn't just chatter. It was obsession. Hashtags with Rasheeda, Yandi, and Jasmine's names skyrocketed into the trending charts within minutes. Blogs and entertainment outlets pounced on the chaos, publishing headlines that screamed betrayal, scandal, and manipulation. Think pieces appeared overnight, with writers speculating about hidden alliances and questioning who stood to gain from Rashida's public humiliation. Some framed Yandi as fearless, while others accused her of orchestrating the entire debacle. But the storm didn't stop there. Celebrities began weighing in, adding fuel to the fire. Reality stars, rappers, even actors posted their takes. Some mocked with memes, others expressed sympathy for Rasheeda, while a select few admitted they couldn't stop watching. The noise became a cultural moment, echoing far beyond love and hip-hop's usual audience. And then came the ratings. Reports confirmed the numbers had surged to record-breaking levels. The meltdown wasn't just drama. It was a phenomenon that turned scandal into gold for the network. But underneath the laughter, the hashtags, and the viral memes, one unsettling truth lingered. This wasn't entertainment for Rasheeda. This was her life unraveling for the world to consume. As the fallout raged on, more receipts began to surface, each one more explosive than the last. Anonymous pages started dropping screenshots, allegedly of Kirk's private conversations. Flirty emojis, late-night check-ins, promises that didn't sound like business at all. These weren't whispers anymore. They were direct blows to the image Kirk was desperately trying to defend, but the shock didn't end with him. In one screenshot, a name appeared that no one expected, a woman loosely tied to the cast. Her identity wasn't fully revealed, but fans immediately started connecting dots. Could this be another hidden link in the chain? Another player in a scandal already spiraling out of control? Speculation spread like wildfire. Blogs posted theories, fan accounts zoomed into blurry screenshots, and timelines flooded with guesses about the mysterious woman's role. Was she an accomplice? A distraction? Or proof that Kirk's entanglements reached even further than anyone imagined? The ambiguity only deepened the intrigue. Rashida's silence during this stage was deafening. She didn't post. She didn't respond. And that quiet absence made the rumors even louder. Meanwhile, Yandi continued to stoke the fire, hinting that more was still hidden, waiting to be exposed. One truth became clear. The scandal wasn't just about Kirk and Jasmine anymore. A larger, darker puzzle was forming, and the missing piece might be this mysterious woman no one had yet identified. Backstage, the atmosphere was suffocating. Rashida sat in her dressing room staring at the mirror without speaking. Her reflection looked unfamiliar, drained, trembling, and carrying the scars of everything that had unfolded only moments before. The envelope of photographs, the leaked clip, the text read aloud, the whispers of another woman connected to the cast. Each revelation carved deeper into her composure, leaving her raw. Producers whispered in frantic circles. What had started as typical reality TV theatrics had exploded into something uncontainable. Viewers weren't just entertained, they were demanding answers, demanding resolution. That urgency forced a decision. The reunion special, originally planned weeks away, would be pushed forward. The network wanted to strike while the fire was hottest, even if it meant risking further collapse among the cast. Inside her dressing room, Rashida rejected cameras and interviews. She refused to play along. For years, she had carried herself as poised and untouchable, but now the cracks were visible to everyone. That silence, that refusal to perform, screamed louder than any meltdown could. And it terrified the producers, because unpredictability is the one thing they couldn't control. Then came the chilling teaser. A rapid montage, bright lights flashing, the reunion stage being prepared, Yandi adjusting her mic with a sly grin, Jasmine clutching her phone, and finally Rashida stepping into frame with fire burning in her eyes. The narration struck like a hammer. When all truths collide, who will walk away unscathed? The screen faded out, leaving only questions. No resolution, no comfort. Just a final cliffhanger that promised one thing. The reunion wasn't just another episode. It was the battleground where reputations, relationships, and legacies would either survive or be shattered forever.